That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about
The Accountant 2.
the 9th film directed by Gavin O'Connor, which just premiered at the 2025 South by Southwest Film Festival. Amazon MGM Studios is releasing it April 25th, 2025.
This director, did they do the first Accountant?
They sure did.
And what else?
I've been familiar with them since their sophomore film Tumbleweed, starring Janet McTeer, Miracle, the Kurt Russell hockey movie, Jane Got a Gun, Warrior, which I do highly recommend that film, and we reviewed Mr. O'Connor's last film, also starring Ben Affleck, The Way Back.
Oh, okay. What is The Accountant 2 about? Christian Wolff applies his brilliant mind and illegal methods to reconstruct the unsolved puzzle of a Treasury chief's murder. So we, in preparation for this, reviewed the 2016 film The Accountant on our Patreon and made it free to everyone. So I'll put a link below so people can listen to that. But what is your pull quote for The Accountant 2?
More goofy and charming than its po-faced predecessor, The Accountant 2 is a refreshingly adult action flick reveling in broad comedy and fraternal bromance as lead Ben Affleck adopts an entirely new persona and affect, resuscitating his kindly vigilante suffering from acquired savant syndrome like a superhero pegged for martyrdom.
Mine. Despite its overly complicated plot, The Accountant 2 bests its predecessor with a shockingly dark, extremely violent, yet lighthearted and surprisingly enjoyable take. I did like this movie. I hated the 2016 movie.
I loathe the first film. I don't understand how that has developed kind of a cult audience at all. So I was kind of surprised. But I mean, this narrative is not, it's beyond nonsense.
I don't know that I've had to try to summarize such a complicated story recently.
Do you like puzzles?
No, not like this. But yeah, this movie, I had not seen the 2016 film until we reviewed it last week. Mm-hmm. And I was so disappointed. I thought it was so dry and boring.
And long.
The Accountant 2 is what I was hoping the first one would be. Mm-hmm. Ben Affleck has taken on a different persona. He's much more sort of animated in this one.
He's a bit more chatty.
His brother, played by Jon Bernthal, is much more involved, and I thought the relationship between the two was so cute.
I mean, Braxton.
Yes. And the component of the harbor neuroscience. So for people who don't know, Ben Affleck's character is this guy who's an accountant. He's autistic, and he does accounting for nefarious people with the intention of turning them into the feds.
Which is biting the hand that feeds you, but
and
okay.
He does so with the help of an assistant named
Justine, who has been replaced by someone else in this.
Who lives at Harbor Neuroscience, which is this sort of institute catering to young people with autism. And we find out in the first film that Ben Affleck, his character, funds it. Like, he's giving them millions of dollars. So in this film, we see that they've taken that money, and it's kind of like
Dr. Xavier's School for
Mutants or
for
something.
gifted children. Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite impressive. And then we have this group of... So Justine is played by a different actor this film.
Allison Robertson replacing Allison Wright.
But this go-round, she has a team of kids.
Of nonverbal geniuses.
Yeah, and I found that whole situation a lot of fun.
Yeah, sure.
It's certainly what I was hoping the last one would be.
Yeah.
Because when I read about the first one before I saw it, I thought it was going to be like, oh, an autistic superhero. So this film feels more like what I was expecting.
Sure.
But the story, oh my goodness, I don't even know where to begin except...
At the beginning.
Well, I mean...
I'm also featuring such a brilliant, mathematically oriented protagonist. The Accountant 2 is a bit of a disappointing title.
It should have been called The Accountant 2 Locations, because we are so many places. We're in Berlin, Virginia, Prague, El Salvador, Mexico, Los Angeles. It's head spinning. Okay. I guess you can tell the story from the perspective of Deputy Director Medina, who's played by
Cynthia Addai-Robinson. You mean Funky Cold Medina.
She's beautiful. She's kind of giving me Sasha Colby. Okay, so we know from the last movie that J.K. Simmons had that job, but he's trying to retire. And he seems really keen on finding his own replacement. And it's because he's working with Harbor Neuroscience and the accountant, getting these tips on how to like take down bad guys. So he needs to find someone who will sort of maintain that relationship.
Who's going to pick up the phone?
So we see that it is now Deputy Director Medina. Okay. And she works for the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is a bureau within the U.S. States Department of the Treasury. So she's a Fed.
And she's incredibly concerned with finding the right office chair.
Yeah, her only real storyline is that she's having a hard time finding a chair for her office.
Her assistant's like, they have some models in there. She's like, there's two Herman Millers. A Herman Miller.
So our tax
officer?
dollars are paying for $1,000 chairs. That's why we have Doge.
Oh, well.
But anyway, okay. So she has this new job. The opening of the film is J.K. Simmons is at some bar and he has called for help. So this random lady shows up who's played by
Danielle Pineda from the Jurassic World films. Anaïs, that's how we're introduced to her.
She's going on my worst hair list. She has this bleach blonde bob with beach waves that I hated. It was so wiggy. It kind of makes sense because when we find out who she really is, they had to really make her look different. But this was not it.
That hairdo was reminding me of, is it Palm Clementieff in the Mission Impossible film?
That hair's worse.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
it's on a spectrum.
I just hated this wig and like the cut and all that. And like it doesn't suit her face shape.
No.
Anyway. Okay, so J.K. Simmons in the opening has called this lady to come meet him and he tells her, hey, I need help. Look at this picture. It's a family, mom, dad, kid. They're missing. And their dad, like the grandfather dad, is trying to find them. And maybe you can help me.
And she's like, I kill people. What do you expect me to
How
do?
would I be able to help you? And then all of a sudden, some bad guys come in and kill J.K. Simmons. Okay, so Deputy Director Medina gets a call saying J.K. Simmons is dead.
And you're his emergency contact.
You were his emergency contact, so can you come down and identify him? So she leaves her office in Virginia to go to L.A. She identifies J.K. Simmons, and while she's there, whomever is showing her the body, the coroner or the investigator goes, oh, so did he have money problems? And she's like, no, why? And then he lifts up the sheet and we see that on J.K. Simmons' arm, he's written in pen, find the accountant. So now Deputy Director Medina knows she needs to find Ben Affleck. She goes to J.K. Simmons' old apartment.
No, he's been renting. The details we get about this shit is
He's 2 months behind on his rent or something.
from some like shitty Echo Park apartments, and the owners who he had one of those serial killer walls of pictures everywhere, and we took it all down.
Yeah, so he had a wall of like all these notes and pictures, and so Deputy Director Medina is going through them and she finds the Harbor Neuroscience card. So she calls there and says, can you help me? I'm trying to find Christopher Wolff. I know you know who he is. Christian Wolff. And of course the receptionist is like, I don't know who you're talking about. I'm gonna have to hang up now. But of course, Justine is always listening. So we immediately cut to Ben Affleck is in Los Angeles and he finds Medina and asks her, what do you want? She explains what happened. She takes them back to, because this lady, keeping in mind that she's the deputy director of whatever agency, has an office in Virginia, she has very last minute flown to LA to identify a body, and then decides to rent J.K. Simmons' old place.
Well, she unravels this mystery.
So I don't know if she took a leave of absence or she's on a special mission. But anyway, she brings Ben Affleck back to that apartment. He spends the night, and the next morning, we wake up to him having basically solved what's going on, and that J.K. Simmons was looking for this lady. And we find out that she was trafficked and
She worked at this pizza place in Inglewood.
and that like the kid was sent somewhere else and that the dad died and that one person is probably responsible for a lot of the deaths on the wall. So then we spend the next hour and a half like trying to find this lady.
Yes.
And the gag is that lady who, like the blonde
Anaïs.
Anaïs, who showed up to try to help J.K. Simmons, she's that missing woman. So how did this missing immigrant from El Salvador who was trafficked turn into this mercenary? Because we find out that she's working for the same agency as Jon Bernthal.
And maybe eventually John Wick. Let's throw all these universes together.
How does she end up like that? Oh my God, this thing is like so complicated. So in the opening, J.K. Simmons mentions something called acquired savant syndrome. Mm-hmm. He says, have you ever heard of it? And then his audience is like, what is he talking about? Who is he talking about? We find out that lady, Anaïs, the one who was trafficked, and she was able to escape somehow and worked at a pizza place and then became some sort of healthcare professional.
I don't know, because she's wearing scrubs and she gets attacked by a man. I'm unclear if the man...
But she's also driving a raggedy car, so I don't know what she was doing in them scrubs, but...
What is LA?
Well, that's true too. She gets attacked by a man.
I'm unclear if the man was involved with, what's his name, Burke, the white man that sex trafficked her. We'll get back to him.
Yep.
Anyway, she is able to flee from that man.
Well, we don't know if that man worked for Burke or she was just being sexually assaulted.
That's what I mean. Yep.
Yeah.
And so she runs out into the street and gets hit by a car. And because she got bonked on the head so hard, she has acquired savant syndrome.
And we'll get to how the audience finds out about this because it's a HIPAA violation. But
for sure. Mm-hmm. Especially because there's resistance to that information being divulged.
Yes.
And then it's just like,
oh no, we're going to get to it.
Oh, let me show you all the files.
So now that we know that the missing woman is this mercenary, of course, everything culminates in Ben Affleck sort of going head to head with her. But her kid, who when they were kidnapped was like 8 years old, is now 13. Mm-hmm. And this kid, along with a bunch of other kids, are being held in some sort of like prison in Juarez by this sex trafficker named Burke.
Yep.
Who also runs like a fish market in San Diego, I think.
As a front, yeah.
I don't know. But...
And indefinitely. This child has been here for years.
Right. And the way they're being shuffled around, it seems like they're not actively... I don't know what's going on with these kids. They've been there for a long time. So now Burke realizes that, oh my gosh, the mother, who's now a mercenary, is like out there in the world.
And one day she's going to recognize me.
So he calls her boss, like unbeknownst to him, he calls her boss, like this mercenary.
Batu is his name, played by Andrew Howard.
Who lives in Prague.
Uh-huh.
To have her assassinated. Not knowing that she works for him, so like he's probably not going to do that. But he also Burke tells his right-hand man, you have to dispose of all of these kids.
Cobb, played by Grant Harvey.
Who I kind of liked him. He didn't have much to do, but that was a tough role because he has to do a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah, from a distance.
From a distance. But
God is watching us.
The end of the movie is that these kids in Juarez are taken to a big burial site. We see a bulldozer digging a huge hole. These, like, how many kids? Dozens of kids are taken to this burial site.
A school bus full.
But another sort of side plot is that when Ben Affleck realizes that this kid is probably autistic, and I'm so confused how he knew. I get the sense that it involves that the kid liked to play with jacks.
But I don't know how I don't know how Christian Wolff knew that from the materials.
I don't either. But now he is hell-bent on saving this autistic kid because I guess he sees himself in the kid. So as these children are actively being shuttled to their burial site where they're probably going to be shot to death, mm-hmm. Ben Affleck and his brother, Jon Bernthal, show up and save the day. Mm-hmm. And so all's well that ends well. Anaïs, the assassin / woman who was trafficked, she gets redemption because Burke, the bad guy, he's scared, so he flees to Costa Rica. Uh-huh. And is waiting to hear back to make sure that she's assassinated. But they gave Anaïs Burke's address in Costa Rica, so she goes down there and kills him. Mm-hmm. And then
And it's sweet vengeance because he had trafficked her and killed her husband.
And specifically it said that he doesn't want to die, or like that he doesn't want to get out of the shower one day and be killed by her. And that's exactly how she kills him. And then Ben Affleck and Jon Bernthal take, the kid's name is Alberto, Anaïs' son. They take him to Harbor Neuroscience, where they have a room made up for him, and hopefully he'll have a nice life there. And then Ben Affleck and Jon Bernthal ride into the sunset, which is meaningful because they hadn't seen each other since the last film for 8 years. And Jon Bernthal's upset about it, so he's happy to see that his brother wants to spend time with him. And then I'm kind of confused, like, so the mom's never going to see her son again because she's crazy? Or
I don't know. I mean, well, okay, that also doesn't work because Anaïs is shown the photograph of herself by J.K. Simmons in the beginning, doesn't jog her memory. Then after a rough and tumble scuffle with Medina, she sees that picture again hanging on the wall of the Airbnb. And then it like Celine Dion, it's all coming back to her.
I mean, I have a headache just trying to think about the story.
It's wow.
But it's like fast paced. It's extremely violent. I think I like Ben Affleck in general, and I really liked him in this, but he's more peppy, and I think his character is trying to seem more aware of like how he comes across. So one of my favorite scenes is in the beginning. Oh, I didn't even mention another location. Ben Affleck's character is currently living in Boise, Idaho, so add that to the list. But he attends something called the Boise Romance Festival, which is like speed dating.
Sounds like a nightmare.
But because he's a genius and good with mathematics, he figures out that they have this, because this like romance festival basically has everyone fill out a questionnaire. And so he sort of cross-references the questionnaire with statistics on like success in dating. And so he basically creates a fake profile. So, but in the beginning, when he's at the festival, all the women can't wait to date him. Like he has a line of every woman in the building wants their 5 minutes with him. So initially I'm like, why do they all, because he wasn't the most attractive man in the room, but then you realize it's because his profile matched with every woman.
Really? See, because I thought compared to the other man, this felt like the Mickey video, Tony Basil.
I mean, he wasn't.
It felt like we cast appropriately so that she would stand out. That's what I thought.
I didn't think that. I thought he seemed as regular as the rest of the people there. So then it was confusing, like, why are they all choosing him? But it's because he rigged the system. But then we see him on the speed dates, and then it's clear that, oh, you are not what these women want.
No.
But so there's a lot of humor injected into his character, but maybe my favorite character is Jon Bernthal.
Yes. I mean, Ben Affleck's kind of playing the straight man.
Yeah, Jon Bernthal has way more screen time, and Jon Bernthal plays this like rough and tumble guy, but he has a really sensitive side. And I think the sweetest moment in the movie, which is strangely in the trailer played off like it's more comedic, where Ben Affleck and Jon Bernthal are sitting on top of his Airstream in like an RV park, and Jon Bernthal asks him like, is it because of you or me that you don't need me anymore? And then they talk about how like, you haven't talked to me since the last movie. Like, why? Like, you never reached out to me. And it seems very clear that he loves his brother, but you know, it's hard being like maybe in a relationship with someone who doesn't understand your intentions and doesn't show their feelings in the same way.
Well, and they both have a traumatic childhood where their mother left them that they've never recovered from.
Right. So I just felt like the relationship between the two brothers feels really rich for a film that's so gonzo.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is definitely a B-grade gonzo film, for sure. I feel like Ben Affleck's starting to look like Lawrence Tierney.
I'll have to look that up.
Who's kind of a terrifying film noir actor that scared everyone. But my favorite film of his is Born to Kill, which is appropriate.
Okay, my least favorite part of the film is Deputy Director Medina. I was so frustrated with her. My first note about her is she needs to get with the program. First of all, what are you doing over here? Like, did you take a leave of absence? Are you on special mission? And then you get connected with this known criminal In the last movie, she watched a video of Ben Affleck kill a bunch of people.
Which she references.
Which she references in this movie, and then decides to get his assistance in trying to figure out this situation. Is this sanctioned by the agency?
No,
it's just
not.
also crazy. And then every time Ben Affleck, so the first time we see Ben Affleck get real crazy is, like you already mentioned, Anaïs, we find out, worked at a pizza place after she escaped being trafficked. So they go to the pizza place, and then we realize, oh, this person is not only hiring undocumented people, but he's also trafficking people through here. But initially everything seems clean because Deputy Director Medina is doing everything by the book, so she can't really like dig in. But then Ben Affleck reviews his income taxes and determines that something's not right. And that's when we see Ben Affleck give that man a good old ass whipping. And that was really good. I thought that scene was really, really good.
Yes, it's a high octane.
But from that point on, Medina keeps saying, you don't do that. You can't do that.
That's all she's saying.
That's all she says the entire movie.
You could put a montage together of all her clips like, stop it, stop it.
Then, okay, so part of Ben Affleck's discovery is that Anaïs, she got into a car accident and ended up at like UCLA Medical Center or something. Mm-hmm. So Deputy Director Medina goes there and finds this doctor.
And this is why she's already distanced herself from Christian Wolff.
Yeah, at this point she's separated because she's like concerned about his tactics. So she goes to this hospital and finds this doctor, and they're walking down the hallway, and the doctor's like, ma'am, you're a federal agent. You should know better. Like, I can't give you people's medical information without a court order.
I need a subpoena.
And then she starts saying, but this is the person I'm looking for. It makes no sense that this federal agent, a deputy director of a federal agency, is acting like just some Joe Schmo trying to get information from like a dry cleaner.
Some investigative journalist. And then she's like, but wait, Harbor Neuroscience. And he goes,
what? And then basically, this is where the HIPAA thing comes in.
come into my office.
He says, come into my office. And then he tells her all the business. He shows her video, and that's when we learn about acquired savant syndrome and how Anaïs is that trafficked woman who, because of her brain injury...
He has all these videos of her recovery and playing chess and all.
But then it evolves into her, like her savant is like she's into combat and problem solving. And then at the end, when he's told all this lady's business, he goes, okay, so then you're gonna send the grant money to wherever. So basically, Medina promised money for this information.
Also, he's just wouldn't he be busy? He just took her aside, and that whole last conversation to show everything must have took like 45 minutes.
Also, like, what kind of program, like, but again,
that's just
so
like,
much of this movie makes no damn sense.
That's just like J.K. Simmons dropping, like, I'm partially retired.
Semi-retired.
Like, okay. Wait, like, are you a reemployed annuitant? Like, what are you doing? What do you mean semi-retired?
Another really cute scene is Ben Affleck and Jon Bernthal go to like a country western bar.
In L.A.
Where people are two-stepping.
Oil Can Harry's.
And the most beautiful woman in L.A. is eyeing Ben Affleck.
Dominique Domingo is that woman's
name. She's stunning.
Angie.
And Ben Affleck gets excited. So she comes over to the table, and of course Jon Bernthal thinks she's trying to hit on him. But then when he realizes it's for his brother, he gets excited for his brother. Mm-hmm. But then of course Ben Affleck screws it up. Not screws it up, but like he's not picking up what she's putting down. Like she's flirting with him and he's being very serious. Mm-hmm. But then out of the blue, because this lady starts two-stepping or line dancing, Ben Affleck decides to get up there and dance. And I thought that was so cute. And I thought Jon Bernthal being excited for his brother was so cute. And then it takes a turn because some man who has the hots for this lady is mad that Ben is dancing with him. And then Ben is antagonizing the man. He's like, oh, you should hit me. And they whip everybody in that bar's ass.
It's corny, but it's sweet.
It felt sweet because it was a bonding moment for the two brothers.
Yes.
I just think every moment with them together works really well.
I feel like O'Connor and the screenwriter Bill Dubuque learned their lessons from the failures of the last film where we had to put up with Anna Kendrick in this ersatz relationship with Ben Affleck's character and realize like, oh, these are the things that might work in this formula.
Again, something that didn't make any sense to me is Jon Bernthal is like a hired killer, like at a very high level. And I guess he has an app on his phone that comes from like the agency that hires him, telling you like, this is the contract, this is what to do, all that. And one night he leaves his phone on the side table because he and his brother are sleeping in the same bed in this tiny Airstream. And Ben Affleck grabs his phone and his phone is not locked. How are you a mercenary hired killer with contracts on your phone? It's not even locked.
Yeah, he just picks it up and is like, oh, and that's how he realizes that there's a contract out in Medina, and he drives 200 miles per hour from...
like Echo Park to... No, where are they staying?
She's in Echo Park. They're downtown, I think.
Yeah, because we see him cross that like the 6th Street Bridge or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it felt like it was taking me back to when Ben Affleck was Batman.
This is actually better than that.
You mentioned it already, but at one point, because Jon Bernthal is saying that in so many words that he's lonely and he wishes he had a relationship with his brother. And then they're talking. We get a really funny scene early on where Jon Bernthal, it appears, is arguing with like an ex-girlfriend about a corgi they adopted together.
No, it's a breeder.
Oh, it's an actual breeder?
That's what I thought.
Oh, maybe that makes more sense.
Margaret.
That he's trying to get a corgi from a breeder, but she's like, you can't take it for until 8 weeks. Like, I have to bottle feed it and all that. And he's arguing about it. But then when he tells his brother that he's getting a dog, Ben Affleck says, you're not a dog person. Like, you don't have a permanent residence. You leave for weeks at a time. You're a cat person. So at the end, when they save all the kids in Juarez and they're driving away in the school bus, John screams like, stop the bus. And then you know what he's about to do. He finds a little tabby on the road. I thought that was really sweet.
It's, again, sentimental, corny, but kind of schmaltzy, but it's sweet and endearing in a way that's unexpected. It feels like if Charles Bronson had starred in Being There instead of Peter Sellers. That's what this feels like.
I know I complained about how ridiculous it is, but it's very charming. It's darker and more violent than I expected. And I kind of appreciate that blend because it is exciting. And while it is over 2 hours, it was pretty easy to sit through.
The pacing is much better in this, but again, because the energy feels a lot different. And I think, I don't know, Ben Affleck's performance is straight up comedy when he's doing this affect. He almost sounds like he's doing a Midwestern accent.
I agree, but I liked it.
Sure.
What else would you like to say about The Accountant 2?
The kids, it reminded me, remember that documentary about Chowchilla? Those kids that were abducted and buried in the bus.
Buried in the bus under the, yes.
That's what that was giving
I totally forgot about that.
And then it made me realize, it reminded me that I've never seen Juarez starring Bette Davis and Paul Muni.
What would you give this film?
I would give it 2.5.
I like this movie despite how I sound. I would give it 3 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.